Welcome. I hope you liked our beginning. My name is Casey Pacheco. I am the host, and we're going to welcome our beautiful co host, Dr. Nayem Pukar. Hello. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing wonderful. Can't wait for the show.
Yes. And we have a beautiful guest on, Tiara Owens. We can welcome her in. Welcome. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So great to be on the show with you two. I've really looked forward to this.
Yes,
Welcome, Tiara.
we cannot wait to hear from you.
Okay, great.
First of all, where are you from? Where are you joining us from?
I am in Santa Cruz, California, so I'm in the Bay Area. Yes.
Okay, very
Yes, it's nice and warm and sunny here today.
nice. Are you a registered nurse?
I am a registered nurse, yeah, through California.
Hey, so you're gonna share with us some good stuff. Tell us a little bit about your background, your nursing background.
So I became a nurse out of working with mothers and babies for probably about 6 to 7 years as a doula and a massage therapist and a midwifery apprentice. And I thought I was going to go down the midwifery pathway. And I started to think about the options of what a career might be like for me to be a nurse and how broad that could possibly be, and options that it gave me to be a nurse than just really specifying in midwifery. And I also was starting a young family at that time too. So the hours of being a midwife and the on-call time of being a midwife, I'd experienced a lot of that as a doula. So I really chose the nurse pathway to give me more options. And it's is being so fruitful because, as both of you know, that as nurses, we have so many career options outside of the hospital.
Yeah, that's true. So now I'm really curious. I have to ask this. Holistic nurse, and what I encounter within the midwifery space with the doulas, massage therapists, they are a lot more into the holistic approach. So your transition from being a nurse and now you are into coaching, how was that for you?
Yeah, so it was a long transition because I started out working in the hospital. I worked 17 years on a labor and delivery floor in a very unique, very highly sought after and award winning hospital here in the Bay Area. And it was a home to me. It was a place that I had my sisters and still do have my sisters that I really connect with there. And they all really practice in this holistic way of meeting the families that come there to have this great day, this great experience in their lives as bringing a new human. So I think it was a really perfect place for me to be able to transition from my worldview of holistic nursing anyway, to be able to have that long career. From then, I came into contact with a great program that's nationwide through a school called Pacific College of Health and Science. They have a holistic nursing program there, and they also train acupuncturists. So it was this beautiful East meets West program that I joined that was on health and human performance. So my letters after my name, people don't like that. I have the MS, but what's the HHP? It's the health and human performance. So again, a vast concept, right? We can also think of health and human performance commonly as like sports oriented, really very physical, athletes or people that are that are working in maybe a health and wellness space, but it's so much more broad than that. I mean, you have performance or optimal practice and performance in so many areas of life. It could be in the executive space. It could just be simply in the mothering space at home. So it gave me a lot of options to tailor that. So I went with that program while I was still working as a nurse and transitioned out of the hospital, as I completed that program toward the final year of that program, and then went 100% to coaching. I still do a little bit of nursing practice through some independent businesses.
Okay.
And I also do some lactation consulting in the hospital as well, very part time.
Okay. Okay. She said very part time. So
Very part time.
So, you joined our show because this show is all about burnout prevention, recovery, and healing. And we see our nurses burning out. I don't know what it's like in the mother baby space,
Mhm.
but I know for the med surge, ICU, critical care, they're burning out at a rapid rate. So, in your business, I see that you nourish nurses, you help them to take care of themselves. How do you do this?
Great question. I really have adopted this model from Chinese medicine that's really the care for the whole nurse using the five element system. So in Chinese medicine, there's five elements, not four, not three, as in the Ayurvedic tradition has three, right? So they have five elements. They're fire, earth, metal, and water and wood. So everybody has one of those archetypes that is pretty dominant within them. And I've been educating nurses on understanding what this is and how you can be in one of those elements. And it really is quite archetypal. Each of them has sort of a pattern of life, and you can shift through them. As we know with all archetypes, it's not one or nothing, it's a blend. And so, what I try to bring in is identifying that main nature archetype in nurses and help them to bring in the aspects of the other elements so that their life can actually be looked at in a much more holistic way with things that are very, very practical. So I'll give you an example. Most nurses are earth element dominant, and that's because we're such nurturers. When you nurture, you're practicing like you're the earth. The earth nurtures humans, the earth nurtures animals, the earth nurtures plants. So, because of that, burnout is really so common because you out nurture your ability to take care of just your basic living needs, to be able to take care of maybe even your family, to be able to take care of the relationships you once thought were important but can't pay as much attention to because you're working too much or you're over giving in one space and not in another. So, for this example, in an earth element dominant nurse or person, many people, many mothers are this way. We need to bring in other aspects of these elements to help create holistic and rebalance their lifestyle. So, for an earth element, probably what you're missing is a lot of the fire element, which fire is heart, fire is passion, fire is motivation, fire is intimacy. So you can
I
see how
love
like
it.
that gets to be a lacking piece when
Mhm.
you're over giving. You don't have anything to draw from. Your well is dry. So you have to reinfuse that fire element with go back and find what are those things that help you be totally inspired, help you feel that passion. And it gets even deeper and more complex than that. Then you can reach back into wood and water and metal to help restructure that. But that's just a really basic example of how I work with the five elements and bring them into the practice of my whole nurse programs.
So Dr. Nyampu, I'm more practical. So you were saying like you're giving, you're giving, you're giving. So some of the actions you have to take if you want to draw from that fire element would be like, this is just my thought as you're talking. I'm thinking, dress up and go for a dance. That's just
I
me.
love that idea.
Because I just like to be, because I love the five elements. I learned a little bit about it in Thailand. I did an introduction to yoga and qigong, and he really delved into it. But I'm always thinking, okay, so how could this practically? I just worked a rough shift. How could I get into a different element now? What are some steps
Absolutely.
am I gonna take? Because sometimes
Yes.
we just do what we always do, but it doesn't energize us.
Absolutely. So it's a process of discovery, right? So I feel like that the fire element is a lot about you're saying yes. What do you say yes to? What's your hell yes, as people like to say? What really is that powerful drive within you that makes you want to participate and be involved? Like you said, the dance, right? I have this practice of doing one dance a day, just one song a day to like wake up in the morning and dance with. So I'm right there with you, Casey, with that one. But I think like getting it a little bit closer, the fire element is also about our connections with people. So nurses are naturally, we're trained, right? There's that story. I don't know if the two of you were trained with this story, but we're like the flock of geese. The geese fly together, but when we have a sick geese or an injured when you have a sick goose or an injured goose, that goose goes down, the flock goes down with it. The
Mhm.
flock makes sure that that goose has what it needs to come back and up and be well enough to fly again with the whole flock. And so its connection with people is really, really important. Having that close circle of people that lifts you up. You're not meant to do this all by yourself. So making sure that you're staying in intimate connection. What is your person that you go to for counsel? Who is that person that you go to for emotional support? Who is that person that helps you stay inspired with your fitness and your workout goals? Who is that person that helps you with money? So having that inner circle of everyone's got their role for you and staying in close contact with that inner circle like it's a wheel and you're at the center of it to feed you. So that's one aspect and one practical way of looking at the fire element. So yes, having that inspiration, your go-to, your hell yes. What do you love to do? You need to be going back and doing that. Maybe you've forgotten about it because you're so deep into your burnout. But then also don't forget about your intimate connections, the people, your tribe that really feeds you and brings you back into your nourishment.
I hate to jump in there, but I just have to say, as a nurse who's been burnt out, I think also looking at your tribe, because sometimes as nurses, because we're so mothering, so earthy, our tribe is usually people who need us. The people who are
Yeah.
around us, they usually have us there to be the one to lean on. So we may need to find another tribe. I don't know if what I'm saying is resonating, but sometimes you might just need to have two different types of tribes: the ones who lean on you and the ones you lean on.
And I think you're pointing to something really, really important. So there's that yes, that really powerful yes that's in our life around passions.
Mhm.
But the metal element also represents no. It's around boundaries. Think of like a sharp sword cutting. Like
Mm.
it creates boundaries and whatever it cuts through. And so being able on the other side of that to be able to say no and figure out what it is that you do need to say no is a really, really deep introspective activity for an earth element person, because you're right, having to say yes and being that person that's the rock and is
Mhm.
always the one that is you go to and you get leaned upon, um, isn't really you need to be that much, but you also need to have those others in you. So yes, finding that tribe that's going to support you, and that's, I think that's what's so beautiful about what you're doing, is just bringing these nurses together so that we can be that tribe that other people can join and other people can lean on as well. So, yeah, seeking out those mentors, seeking out those people that you can look to for your support. That's the sort of tribe and intimacy that I'm talking about building and reestablishing those connections with.
So
Absolutely.
if I may just jump in there for a moment, Tiara, you the five elements really, I would say it eliminates what Nurses in Charge stands for, because it is our nonprofit organization and it connects nurses. We connect nurses, we celebrate with nurses, and we empower nurses to just move beyond that stagnation that sometimes holds us in. Like, I'm comfortable here, I've reached my degree of education, and or I'm comfortable in my work area. So Nurses in Charge will pull you out of there and makes you and make you go beyond yourself, right? So when you speak on
Great.
these 5 elements, I'm like, how did she know? Is she reading? Is she reading our manual or something?
Yes, yes.
Well,
It's
what's
beautiful,
also great
though.
about the 5 elements is that there's 2 to 3 key resiliency skills that reside in each of those elements. And I really like to teach to that, is like paying attention to that. Because if you're earth element dominant, you're probably going to be really great with calm. You might be really great with mindfulness. You might be really great with compassion, but you might need to lean on other skills that are part of the metal element, like grit, like learning beyond where you are right now. Like you're saying, nurses in charge, moving beyond that comfort zone. You might need to work in the wood space, which is about courage. You might need to be down in on generosity and gratitude. So I feel like those teaching those key resiliency skills and how to use them in your life daily,
Daily.
pulling from several of them, is really part of what fits in with the 5 element practice as well.
And I'm so happy you're here with us, Tiara, because you really embody a nurse in charge. This is what the Burnout Prevention Network is all about not just only education wise, but taking care of yourself on a daily basis. Now, this is something that, anybody can do a 1 minute exercise or a one time retreat. But what you're teaching sounds like a lifestyle.
Mhm.
Very much so.
So when it comes to nurses, what are some of the challenges you have reaching out to nurses and engaging them to come into balance and harmony of these 5 elements? What has your experience been like?
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, I really like to hand out my free assessment.
Okay.
My free assessment that gets people to understand what it is that their nature archetype is, which element really is most appropriate to them. And knowing that can change. It can change in phases of your life. It can change, it can change as you come into retirement or you have a baby or whatever happens. But that usually is more of a predominant thread that follows you. So once I have that assessment, I think it's a really good conversation starter. And most people are super interested. But you know that, like, when you have these conversations with people, it might not be right now. They might not be feeling enough pain, or they might not be connecting enough to what your solutions are. And I don't even really like to say solutions. I want to just say invitation,
Mhm.
because I'm not there to tell you I can fix you. I'm there to show you that there's a way to step into a life where you can have a lot more joy. You can be a lot more just really engaged in what it is that you're doing. But it takes a lot of energy. So a lot of times for nurses, it's like, I'm going to give you permission to rest. I'm going to really, really start there, because I think that's one of the places that we have a big challenge with. It's just really that pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So once they're ready with their particular point of connection, or their pain meets a certain threshold that they really do want to make the change, that's when my work with people really begins. And sometimes people aren't even really in that much pain. Some people want to just balance out a little bit and have a little bit from the menu that's just more like an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah.
And I think that that's great too, because we're here to prevent. Actually, we don't want to get people that are so down in the burnout space that it takes a really long time, and it takes them seeing multiple modalities to really get back into a place of joy and a place of where they do want to work and bring their best selves forward again.
Wow. I love it because you're right. Some of our nurses are not quite into the burnout stage yet. They're feeling frustrated on different levels, and getting truly to know where you can work with them at what levels. I truly believe you can tailor their care.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the fiery one, so I have to pause so Dr. Nyampo can get her words in. I don't want to hog the stage, but I am so excited to talk to you about this because we're seeing right now as a group of nurses in charge, we are seeing two things happening. We're seeing, okay, we're out of the system and we're creating offerings for the individual nurse. If you want to heal, if you want to be coached, we have a platform here for you.
Mhm.
But on a scale of you're seeing in the hospital where we're coming up against a nursing shortage, we're also coming up against nurses leaving in mass quantities. They're leaving the bedside. So, from your
Mm.
perspective, if action isn't taken, where do you think that will leave our profession?
Yeah, our professions and our nurses individually. Yeah, it's scary, right? I mean, there's some statistics out there that, in the next 3 years, that we're going to have a mass exodus from hospital based nursing. Um, so, we've got our work cut out for us. We've got our work to actually get into those hospitals and really, really disrupt, shake up structure. And to go all the way to the end of what you're talking about, I feel like this is where this issue is really involves all of us, because we're all going to need nursing care at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
And I just witnessed one of my family members going through an incredible illness, and we lost them, over a period of years. But I got to see from that outside perspective of the nursing world. You can just so easily put yourself into those shoes. Your children, your siblings, your parents, yourself, and so this just brings it home that we have to work as a society, not just nurses, not just the Nurse Burnout Network, not just nurses in charge, but we have to work as a society on the new paradigms of caring for ourselves, putting the sovereignty in ourselves to make good healthcare choices with knowledge and intuition. That's very important for people to understand what's going on inside them on a deep level, not just with knowledge. And also to be able to have access in so many different ways. And there's a lot of models that are coming up to support that. There's a lot of nurses that are actually working on that. And I still feel like we can save those nurses that are working in the hospital, to create a new paradigm of work within the hospital that involves this burnout prevention, that involves this 5 element holistic care, that involves a totally new work structure of not just working 12-hour shifts with your so-called breaks that you have there, that involves secondary trauma care, because that's actually a lot of what I work with is care providers and nurses working with secondary trauma for what they've witnessed in their career. And it's just all walled off inside of them and inaccessible. And they really don't even know that that's actually one of their sources of burnout. They feel like it's just overwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do. And I see, I have a lot of hope, actually. I don't feel like that slide of our profession just ending. I think we just are so ingenious, and so we have so much agency within our profession that I think that we have a lot of ability to make that change for our world, really.
Absolutely. I think we lost Dr. Nayampu for a little bit. I think she'll come back in a little
Okay.
bit. But I agree with you, Tiara, because I think you could say, oh, I have healed from burnout and I'm okay. But then you realize this is a whole system, profession who just experienced a pandemic, the COVID-19 and secondary trauma. I remember speaking to one of my coworkers, and she started crying. She said they were 2 weeks in the lockdown facilities, people dying, and there was no follow up to a lot of the trauma that people have received. So I think what we're doing and coming together as healers, as nurses, and saying, let's form a team so we can help create a model that we can help them ease the burnout. And we all have different things to offer, but as a collective, we can really address our healthcare system and our fellow nurses in a way
Yes.
that they can heal.
Yes. Yes. Totally agree with you.
Mhm.
Yes. And I feel like spending, we do need to spend some years acknowledging the trauma of COVID-19 in the healthcare space. It's
Mhm.
going to take us some healing years to
Mhm.
get through and beyond that. But I think what's on the other side of that, if we really do acknowledge that as we work through this burnout space,
Mhm.
I think something there is so much bigger and so much more beautiful than what we've had in the past.
I think so. I agree with you. And I think these conversations are really good because we can talk about how we rushed right from COVID-19 to a nursing shortage. And now it's gonna, we're seeing this shortage is not getting any smaller. So we're gonna have to say, how can I take care of myself and
Mm-hmm.
take care of the many without sacrificing me?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That's a process. I had one last question for you.
Please.
I hope Dr. Nyampo comes back, but what is your advice to nurses and those who are in healthcare burning out right now? What
Mm-hmm.
would you say to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think first there needs to be a recognition that that's what's taking place, that burnout has many faces. And, sometimes we're looking at it as compassion fatigue, and we're looking at it as moral distress. Um, I think we need to be able to see the forest for the trees and just to back up a little bit and be able to take in and acknowledge how deeply hard that we worked, and to be able to give ourselves a little bit of time and space. If you can carve out, you actually must carve out and prioritize time and space for you to regroup your priorities and know that you are at the center of your world, and you may be at the center of many other people's worlds too that rely upon you. And in order to fulfill those responsibilities to them and to yourself, you can't abandon yourself. You have to carve out reflection and water time, right? This is the water element right here, to be able to give gratitude for what you have and what you've had, and to feel very generous with yourself going forward by giving yourself this time to heal and to take stock of where you are, and to be able to start looking for what your pathway going forward is to heal.
Excellent. That is excellent, excellent, excellent. I think you have weaved the five elements so beautifully into this conversation. I'm just so in awe, and I'm thinking about our viewers and any of the nurses who might be watching and saying, wow, where's this woman been all my life? How could I reach you? How could I get in touch with you? What's the best way for someone to reach out to you if they
I
want
am living on LinkedIn these days. I'm
LinkedIn? Okay.
absolutely living on LinkedIn. So I would
Wonderful.
say DM me on LinkedIn. I haven't been so great at other social media spaces. So that is the place to get a hold of me. I have in my featured section of LinkedIn, I have a connection call that people can schedule. And my calendar's got some space in it, and I would love to talk to you. I just love having these individual conversations and just seeing
Mhm.
if we're a right fit for each other, and then how we can work together.
Mhm.
I
You
will give
know,
one more little
okay.
plug, is that I'm having an event here to play out these five elements in person. So if you live in Northern California and you want to DM me about this event, we still have a little bit of space in it. And I would love to have some nurses come join us, because this is a very experiential event around practicing the five elements for healing.
When is it? What's the
This
date?
is September 9th and 10th. It's a Saturday and Sunday, and it's actually in Santa Cruz, California.
Santa Cruz. Wow.
Right. I wish I could make it.
I know, I know. We'll have to do a future one that we can. There are
Yeah.
future ones that are coming up, so we'll get to meet
Okay.
there and practice.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. This is wonderful. Well, as usual, I always ask Dr. Nayampu, do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share or any final words or questions for Tiara?
No question for Tiara. I am just so amazed at the synergy between the five elements in our nursing organization, and we would definitely do some wonderful work together as networkers and also collaborating on
Mm,
other issues. Absolutely.
I can't wait, Nampu. Casey, thank you so much for this opportunity to just connect with you two and just get more deeply involved in the work that you're doing and how we can work together.
Yes, and thank you for joining our networks. Thank you for wanting to be part of this. Nurses in Charge, Burnout Prevention, Loving on Nurses. You're a beautiful being, and we thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we also honor all that you've done for our profession.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
So thank you for your time. And viewers, if you have any questions you would like to ask Tara, please leave it in the comments below and we'll be sure to pass those on to her. We thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this very helpful and you would like something else discussed, please let us know as well in the comments below. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up, but I have a final goodbye.
Okay.
Here we go.